Hello and welcome to Villain Squad, the in-betweeny show that we do when we're not talking about creatures. In this show, we like to kind of brainstorm, workshop ideas for the non-monster villain ideas that we have, making them into an iconic, inverted commas, iconic squad. I'm your host, Mikey, and with me is Tim.
Hello, I am Tim.
Your co-host, good man himself.
Oh,
and yeah, as I said, we're going to talk about villains. We're going to make some villains. Tim, do you want to tell us how exactly we're going to do that today?
Well, let me tell you, Mikey, we're going to be having this random table assignment, basically. We're going to use a couple of the lists that are given to you on the Dungeon Master's Guide and Xanthar's Guide and some of the stuff from Volo's to build our villains, because the D&D people, Wizards of the Coast, obviously, built these with some people using them in mind, and I think that we will come up with some stuff that we wouldn't necessarily come up with immediately ourselves. Because, you know, in testing this, we came up with some pretty silly little ones and then some, like, apocalyptically awful ones. So, you know,
Yeah.
this is going to be kind of fun. So we will build basically a boss bad, and then we'll come up with some...
A boss baby, if you will.
a potential boss baby. Maybe we should have a roll for their age as well, just to see how old they are. But basically, we're going to come up with the race, the class, their occupation, what their scheme is, and what their method is going to be. So it could be silly, could be fun, but we might round it up at the end and put them all together in a big mishmash of villains. But yeah, we're going to be using mostly page 72 and 73 of Xanthar's for the race and occupation and stuff. And then for the scheme and the methods, we'll be using page 94 and 95 of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yep.
And yeah, that's how we're going to do it this episode.
Sounds good. So Tim has devised maybe, I don't know if that's a word, but a race table, because the one in Xanthar's it only has the player's handbook one. So we decided to add in the Volo's ones, and I think a couple curveballs he said are in there. So Tim, would you like to roll for race right now?
I would absolutely love to. We are going to be rolling 1d20 to decide the race of our bad guy. We haven't rolled a dice on stream yet. On stream? On air.
On stream, yeah, on air. We have not, no. It is the first time on the show that we actually get to roll dice. So everyone,
oh my God,
this is a treat. This is a treat right now.
You're going to hear a real dice hitting a real table right now. I rolled an 18.
18.
Which is
what we got?
A half orc.
Ooh.
A half orc.
Okay. And what class is this half orc?
Well, let's have a look-see. What do we have for class?
Roll D100 and I will tell you what it is.
All right, thank you very much. D100. Whoops. My dice fell into my shoe.
Uh-oh. Bung roll.
But we got a 15 total.
Oh, 15 total. That's a cleric.
A cleric. A half-orc cleric.
A half-orc cleric.
Uh-huh.
And occupation, another D100. We'll see what this...
What
the day job, I guess, of this half-orc cleric is, what they did before they became a holy man or a holy woman.
Holy woman.
Woman. Whoa, man.
21.
Artisan or guild member.
Artisan or guild member.
Artisan. Like artisan cheese.
Artisan.
Ooh, actually, now we have that. Let's do another table here. That's in the backgrounds features. For the first bit of this episode is going to be us rolling tables, and it might not be the interesting part, but just bear with us. We'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just get the background real quick. You can fast forward through this, Tim. Here we go. Guild business. Give me a D20, Tim.
D20. 12.
A mason or stonecutters. Ooh.
A
mason, eh?
Stonemason. That's going to be like maybe he's writing out like the laws that he's going to lay down for this new change to his god, his clerical charge?
Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So a cleric, gets their powers from a divine source. So where do we think, what kind of domain would this cleric pray to?
Well, the classic bad guys would be the kind of death ones or grave ones, right? Although grave can be pretty neutral.
Yeah.
Although for the sake of Villain Squad, we're going to make him evil. So
Because they are villains.
Villains. Clerics.
This isn't antagonist squad. This is villain squad. They have to be villainous people.
Yes.
So it'll be kind of like maybe like some sort of new cult coming up, like a cult leader. And this half orc is like a leader person who's preaching the evilness. I guess that's kind of a little bit of a cliche, I guess, but a strong cliche. Maybe we'll make a little bit more sense when we get to the schemes and stuff.
Yes.
And the methods. So we're going to go over to the DMG and check this out. All right, so how do we do this?
With the villain scheme, we roll a d8 to decide the header, and then there are a couple of different options underneath each header to specify the specific objective or scheme.
Okay, so the first thing we do is roll a d8. Tim, can you roll us a d8?
Bam! That's a 4, which is under the heading of Mayhem, which is my favorite table on this.
Ooh, Mayhem.
And then I roll a d6, and that's a 3. So spread a vile contagion. Ooh.
That's cool. That is that is very, very cool. That is like it's worshipping some sort of like disease god.
Yeah.
And it wants to spread a disease to all the non-believers, or he believes this disease is like it's god, and anyone who's infected by it is a non-believer, and he uses that power.
It's going to be like the Resident Evil guys when they have their plague thing when it becomes a religion for them. Wasn't that in one or two of them?
Yeah, that's Resident Evil 4. Yeah,
Resident Evil 4.
That would be a very good parallel with that, where this natural virus has almost kind of formed a cult around it, and the people think that they're like gods basically, even though it's just a disease.
Yeah, which actually harkens back to back in the day. We actually discovered recently that cats actually have a parasite in them called toxoplasmosis, something like that, that is in their poop. So if you have to clean up after a cat, you might gain this parasite, which causes you to want to look after cats more.
Didn't you like talk about cat pee in another episode?
I sure did. Now I'm on cat poop.
Now you're on cat poop. All right.
Tune in next episode for cat spit.
Yeah,
which is actually quite interesting. But anyway,
it is quite interesting. But like, come on, Tim.
Yeah. Okay.
What's all this gross cat stuff?
But yeah, that's why some people believe that back in the day the Egyptians revered cats originally. Like they had these cats and they weren't very sanitary, so they just caught this parasite that kept them spreading, and that's possibly what promoted cats as a house pet and as a cute thing that you kept around. Anyway, it's kind of side point.
Cool.
Thanks.
What's the point with that one? That cats, you should have a cat on the squad as well, maybe?
Potentially, but their contagion that they spread is cats, and people revered cats, so maybe this should have been a tabaxi death cleric artisan mason.
Maybe, but it ain't.
It ain't. So we jump on to methods to see how they go about this.
Let's go with it.
This is where the curveballs come in. So the methods is broken down very similar to the scheme. So I roll a d20. We have an 8, which means their method is execution.
All right.
Oh boy,
that kind of makes sense.
And then
D8?
I roll a d8. Indeed, shabam, a 5. Drawing and quartering.
Oh wow.
Okay.
That's a very that's very just violent, I guess. But how would that help with the disease? Maybe it thinks that if you do that and he rips you apart, then you become a monster, like in Resident Evil. I don't know. Like, how would drawing and quartering go into this?
Well, maybe it's part of a kind of a zombified kind of thing. Like the contagion could potentially bring them back to life. Save me, bring me back to life. And it could be part of it. Like you have to cut off a part of yourself to do it, and then some of the most dedicated people to this cause will be drawn and quartered so that their bodies are like given to this contagion, this parasite or something that then maybe they put together this great corpse thing, like a big
corpse thing.
Corpse thing, yeah.
Tim Burton's Corpse Thing. Favorite movie.
Oh yeah, I love that one. Excellent.
Okay, so it's kind of like a sacrifice then.
Yeah, so I think that drawing and quartering is like a ritual sacrifice kind of thing that somebody who has fallen to this death cleric's preachings will potentially like decide is like their ultimate sacrifice to this new god that is basically this contagion. So I think the god that he is going to worship is the contagion, but the maybe some other evil divine entity created this contagion, and that is how he gets his clerical powers.
Yeah.
So that could be cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking is also maybe just like this cleric's god, kind of like a disease virus based contagion based god. The cleric got a message at some point, or like a divine
text
message saying hello. Yeah, exactly. Just going like, I want you to spread disease, please.
Please spread disease.
You're my avatar of death, so could you just go and do that? And he's like, cool, all right, I'll do that. I'll form a cult around you as well to worship you. And then his divine powers is kind of like a death cleric, but also maybe like a disease domain, if there is such a thing, or disease-based death domain, where he has disease powers, disease-themed spells, which I don't know if there's much of that, but I know there's like
blight and
uncontrollable laughter could be like the Joker's like laughing kind of gas kind of thing. Maybe that can be one of them. There's a bunch of stuff you can do with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like poisons, and like you could even have them be like a kind of a druid almost that like develops like through like a druid craft of some sort, like a contagion craft, to like make these like green veins appear on their wrists as like their sign of their compatriots and of the people that are of that following, so that there are Do you think that they would wear it proudly out loud, or do you think that they would keep it kind of secret?
Because I think disease needs to be kind of secret a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like it needs to be, but I can also see them kind of saying, we are the higher beings because we have this. This disease is good for us and bad for you because you are lesser beings to us. So I don't know which one to go with. Maybe the latter.
Yeah, so
I like that idea.
Yeah, like keep it secret until like they are like a big enough force, even that they like have some sway with their numbers, you know?
Yeah.
And then kind of go public, and then have other people like be abhorrent, like find these other bad guys abhorrent, but they have to accept them because there's so many of them. But I think that it could almost be political if you wanted it to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I think depending where your characters or your players are in their campaign early on, I'd say maybe it's just a small cult. And later games, maybe get them bigger and bigger. And maybe if you're going towards like the high level play, maybe have them come out of the woodwork basically almost.
Yeah.
As this zombie contagion plague that is led by this half-orc death cleric, who is promoting this through his artisan masons, and he made 2 enormous stone tablets that have his laws and rules and what he is
we got to put
preaching.
the stone-mason stuff in there.
Got to get it somehow.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe like the Lord of Disease would be a great kind of title for him.
Yeah,
that'd
like
be
that.
very cool.
That's
Something
good.
in the lines of that, at least. Does his cult, or does the higher ups in his cult, get a monster form like in Resident Evil 4? Does he turn into does he have a second form where he's a monster?
Does he have a bag on his head, and does he hold a chainsaw?
That sounds good.
Maybe.
To me. Yeah, maybe he just does that as well. That's the second form. He puts a bag on his head. Like, second form. No, when it comes to D&D, I love the JRPG-esque. You get a second form after a certain amount of health, after you hit him a certain amount of times. I just like that trope.
Well, with it being a death cleric, I think that if you kill them, they will probably come back as this greater form. Like, whatever god is giving them power will empower the contagion that is already inside them.
Yeah.
That they have fallen to or fallen with it, so it'll burst out into this greater scary or bigger monster thing.
And also you got zombies for your game. I always like having like a zombie-esque creature to fight, because it gives your players like nothing really to think about other than, oh, the villains, we're fighting zombies and really bad people. We don't have to think about morals and stuff for this one, because I like all those kind of morally complex games, but I also like when most of the people that you're mowing through and chopping in half is just they're zombies. That's it. Like
they're zombies. They're already dead. They are basically just whatever parasite is in them now. Like they are no longer what they once were. Man,
exactly.
That's hardcore.
Cool.
It
is. I wasn't expecting like a Resident Evil esque villain for this, but that's a very good idea. If you guys want more inspiration on this, just play some Resident Evil 4. It's a great game. And it should be played by everybody, I think. Cool. How about we go up another one and see what happens?
Alrighty. So let's start with the old race again, which is a D20. 5, which is a lizard folk.
Lizard folk. Okay. And D100.
D100. 94.
Warlock.
Ooh.
I know.
Lizard folk warlock.
Interesting.
What next? What is it? The occupation. Alright. That is 19.
That is a
cleric again.
Artisan or guild member again.
Yeah, well, nix that. Going again.
Nix that. Alright, we're not doing that.
We're going 94.
That is a sailor.
Sailor. Okay.
A lizard folk sailor.
Warlock. Fantastic. I love this.
That's great.
So
if you're going to go with a sailor, I'm thinking of like the Great Old One as its patron.
Yeah.
Some deep Cthulhu monster in the water.
Yeah.
The lizard folk died of a capsizon. Not even died. Like his boat capsized. He's in the water. Supposedly died, but sank so deep into the water that that was visited by this deep one, this Great Old One, and was like, "You are now my
boy,"
and then bam, get some Cthulhu powers, get some Lovecraft powers,
some water manipulation, and some other fun, cool stuff. What's this guy's scheme? Come on, what's his scheme? We start off with a D8. 1. Immortality.
Ooh, pretty cool.
And a D4. That is number 1.
Acquire legendary item to prolong life. Ooh. Okay. What is this item?
This item, I don't think it would be like a weapon. I think it would definitely be either worn or consumed or otherwise attached to the person. Or it could be like a phylactery, like a lich. Ooh, like a lich of the ocean. An ocean lich.
Oh, yeah.
That could be kind of cool.
Ocean lich.
Take me by
bitch. I'm so sorry. That's the only thing that reminded with it. That rhymed with it. I'm so sorry.
Yep. Excellent. But
no, it's not. It's not.
No, it's
okay.
not. It's terrible.
Yeah, maybe there's this ancient phylactery or like artifact or altar of some sort, this ocean altar that it's trying to find, and it was given clues of where it is from its patron, from this old monster.
Yeah.
And maybe you as the party know that like we can't let this guy get it because he'll become super powerful if this happens, because just prolonging life, that's a bit stupid, but maybe it's prolonging life and just gaining power as well, becoming a lot more powerful.
Yeah, I think the prolonging life thing is a solid join back to the old one idea, because with that will come like great age and great intelligence and an ability to live forever, basically. So I think that whatever Cthulhian horror you attach to will have some idea of some items within your world, and this is another prompt for DMs to come up with some fun items. It could be like a necklace, it could be an orb that they carry on their person. I'm thinking currently of, again, it's a Critical Role. Travis Willingham's character is a half-orc warlock who is attached to this great god of the ocean, this great sea serpent, basically, and he grabs these eyes and attaches them to himself and to his sword, and they are, his objective is different from this, but I think something along those lines, that you have to keep on your person, but once you have them on their person, they might absorb into your body.
Okay.
So like a great old one would maybe find an old tentacle he had chopped off or that he left behind somewhere on the earth.
That's very, like Bloodborne-esque, where I think you have to go around and find pieces of these great ones, I think they're called. Yeah. And you eventually become, if you get enough of them, you become one or something. It's that kind of theme. So maybe you're finding pieces of this older, not this old one, but this older one.
This elderly gentleman.
Yeah, this old guy, and you're maybe he's actually trying to become an old one. This the lizard folk, and he wants some power because, and he knows as becoming an old one, maybe because he's a villain, he wants revenge on the world, and he got revenge on the world because he's getting it because this old one's like, I can give you power if you sign your life away with me, and I can point you in the right direction how to get power. And then he's trying to find pieces of this old one to kind of become one and do this weird ritual where he becomes super powerful, prolongs his life, and dooms the world, possibly, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe he is on the right track to gain that power because he joins forces with the Lord of Disease, who's like, all right, work with me, and I can help you out in your thing too. So.
Yeah, I think that he will. This warlock, this lizard folk warlock sailor, will definitely be much more solo, I think, because with the death cleric, the cleric kind of comes with the idea of like cult or religion or something along those lines, whereas this acquiring an item would probably tend to be a bit more of a solo mission. So if he was to interact with our previous character, I think that they could have some like crossovers. With the idea of the contagion will potentially come like a further life beyond your own death, which could be like the catalyst for your secondary form, basically your zombified form. And maybe the lizard folk is brought into this under the promise of finding the items, but maybe our half-orc death cleric artisan mason just manipulates him into thinking that's what he's going to get for him, but then he becomes one of his boys and then is doomed to never acquire his original item. If he was independent, I think he'd just chill out and find a way to just become more and more powerful.
Yeah, that's cool. But what if this old one patron and this death god's virus god, or this death cleric's virus god, is the same thing, or comes from the same source?
Ooh, that's cool.
Different perspectives on this.
That could be interesting.
On the same divine source. Whenever I do gods in my world, I like to keep them very ambiguous, where it could be, it's just people's interpretations of it.
Right.
So maybe this old one, this power where this old one's coming from, and this disease thing, disease god, is pretty much mash them together. Maybe they're the same thing. Maybe it's this virus that comes from underneath deep into the ocean and came out. Maybe the same kind of divine power that gave the lizard folk its power is also giving this cleric its power too.
Fascinating. It could be that like an earthquake or something like shook up the underworld or the underdark, and it like released some old chemical into the water source of a city, and this half-orc has a spring in his garden or something, and then he drank from it and then
became evil after drinking from it. That's very cool though. That makes sense.
So you have a nice origin, and you have a crossover between potential bad guys or just people from your game that will eventually become bad guys. Because I think the sailor, he's just I don't think that in the world of magic and marbles that that it is an unusual thing to want to prolong your life. Like, I want to live forever. And you're like, all right, good luck with that. Instead of, I want to live forever. You're evil, get him.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ways to live forever. And it seems like if you have a high fantasy, high magic world, that can be done easily. You know, you kind of want your villains to have a little bit more than just that, I think. Yeah. That's what I think, personally.
Have a bit of essence to them. Have a bit of meat to them, you know?
Yeah, a bit of meat on those bones.
Shall we give this guy some methods?
Of course, we haven't done that yet. So how does this lizard folk warlock sailor do its thing?
Okay, so D20 is a 16, which means it's stalking. And stalking doesn't have any sub-tweets, basically. So
just stalking. Okay.
So maybe while out at sea, maybe he wasn't part of a large crew or something. He's just kind of a thief, practically, and like a kind of a spy idea. Okay. I think so that he found out about this great old one, and so he heard about it, and then he tried to contact it somehow, and so with that he will have stalked a couple people and heard whispers of this underground cult that may be growing around something that sounds very similar to what he wants. And so I think that with that, it would, again, very quickly stitch him back to the contagion boy.
Yeah.
Because I think that with stalking, he has an intention in mind. So he's probably not going to be a primary big bad with all that we've given him. But
yeah. But it's pretty cool, because stalking kind of adds now to the idea you had of it being more of a solo guy.
Yeah.
Where he does most of it. He's like a sneaky warlock, kind of like a couple levels in rogue, maybe. That it's always trying to keep eyes on you and has eyes all around the place, trying to spy on a lot of people, kind of like a spy, I guess.
Yeah.
But he wants to stay solo. Maybe he doesn't want anyone to really know his identity as well. And yeah, that could be kind of cool. So keep him solo, but he only works with a certain amount of people.
Yeah, I think that makes enough sense. Like, he was a sailor, but he went a little bit out too far, and he still capsized and potentially drowned a little bit, but then got his connection, and the connection pointed him back in the direction.
Yeah, are lizard folks amphibious?
Hold breath. You can hold your breath for up to 15 minutes.
Nope. Cool, that's fine. Then it can drown.
Yeah. So he drowns, but it deals with it.
But it will be amphibious now, because I'd say if you're a patron of like a underwater higher power, then you would get some, underwater swimming powers.
Yeah,
I think.
Cool. So those two are pretty well tied together with regards most of their kind of primary ideas.
Yeah, you can see how they can be together.
Yeah. Do you want to see if we can come up with something that might be a little bit left of field with our next one?
We'll see if it works. Let's give it a go.
All right. So, starting again with race. 20.
That is?
Excellent. That is a sentient gelatinous cube.
I didn't know you actually put that on the table as a crit 20.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do we have to do the... How about we don't do the class and occupation and we just do the villain scheme, because it doesn't really make sense for it to be a class or occupation. So let's go straight to the scheme. What's it trying to do?
Straight to schemes. 6.
Power.
Oh yeah, power. And the subsection of that is number 1. Conquer a region or incite rebellion. Oh my god, I love it.
So this gelatinous cube revolutionary leader is I don't know, man. Yeah. I'm sorry. Just kind of I have no idea.
Maybe he started off as just a simple gelatinous cube, just eating stuff, but then he ate like a wizard or something that maybe like lost part of its brain, but like still maintained part of its sentience and its intelligence, but it got like corrupted by this gelatin around it, and now it decides that it wants to become powerful, and it decides that it wants to grow and it wants to take over this area. Because I don't think incite a rebellion is something a gelatinous cube can do. So I'm just gonna say conquer.
Yeah, just power, and it will do what it's been doing before, just eating people and becoming powerful because of that. Because actually, maybe it got its power because it ate so many adventurers already.
Yep.
Like chimera ants, I guess, where it ate so many adventurers that it gained its power from that, and now he wants to gain power by eating a region and like either quite literally or metaphorically becoming like the region's king or something, and just becoming a cube.
Maybe he abandons his very stable shape of being a cube and decides to just kind of, as he expands, he grows into the underground tunnels of a city, and then like as he keeps growing, he starts to seep up through the ground of this region, and people start stepping in it and getting sick and getting a little bit poisoned, and then they'll like stay in bed and drink chicken soup, but then the gelatinous cube will be able to smell its own like poison in this sick person, so it'll concentrate like a strand and pick the person up and pull them back into the underground, and then it'll steadily grow and grow.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be like this terrible pest, basically, that will get way out of control.
And maybe this cube or blob or whatever it comes was like one of the first of the favors of the monster that this disease god gave the disease lord.
Wrapping it all back around.
There we go, going full circle. It's like this. It's basically just a big disease, kind of just a big blob trying to eat stuff, and maybe the disease lord's using that as well, where he keeps them underground in the sewers or in the underground tunnels, and sometimes it might come out through like a hole in the wall and just grab somebody.
Yeah,
a vent, exactly. And then eventually it'll pop up. It gets so big that it will consume the city that it's underneath.
Maybe the lizard folk, our warlock, sailor, spy, got very early
That's my
contact.
That's like Tinker, Soldier, Sailor.
Taylor, soldier, spy.
Yeah, warlock, lizard folk, sailor, spy.
Maybe he got in very early contact with the death cleric, who had a small gelatinous cube-like thing that was slightly sentient, that had some intelligence to it, and his job, the lizard folk's job, was to bring this thing into the underground of a great city or something, some fascinating area that like is opposed to the idea, obviously, of this contagion being spread, but because it got in so early that they weren't aware of it. So while the cult of this contagion is growing underneath the city, there is also this growing cube of contagious filth that spreads itself through the city.
Yeah.
And the lizard folk is the one that put it there and maybe tends to it, and maybe the drawing and quartering is so that you can feed this gelatinous cube with the parts. Oh man.
Yeah.
This is cool.
That's kind of it's all trying to make sense now. Maybe
maybe
this gelatinous cube is the main baddie.
Maybe it's like a part of the brain of this otherworldly character, basically, like the god thing or great old one. It just blips out a little bit of its brain or something and infects this whole world and starts this infection and contagion.
I kind of don't want to ruin it with the villain's methods, but I guess we kind of have to at this point. So do you want to roll the methods there?
Sure. Just because because this is the ridiculousness that we want. So it's a 15. Oh, religion.
Okay, not too bad. Wow.
They all look pretty good, all of those potential options. Whoop, that was cocked. A 4. Heresy or cults.
There we go. Thank you so much. We didn't
great old
we
one.
didn't. Yeah. Okay.
That's perfect. That just wraps itself around itself, and that's like, I don't think we gotta ask. Maybe we are starting this cult here on this podcast, and it started with the seed that was this death cleric, and now all we can think is, we need to spread this idea to every other character that we make.
Yeah. The blob. All hail the blob.
All hail the blob.
Yeah.
I'd get drawn and quartered for a blob. I think I would.
It sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
It's starting to make sense.
It's starting to grow on me.
Nice one. Okay, so we got the blob, which I guess started out as a cube. Maybe it can be a big cube, but I like the idea of it just being a gelatinous blob.
Yeah.
Shall we make one more person?
I think so. I think that we could very easily come up with something else.
Yeah. Easily, because we got this table here. That does it for us.
How about that? All right, so starting with race. We have a 19, which is tiefling. So we have a tiefling boy. Why do I keep saying boy? A tiefling person. Okay.
A tiefling person.
How about that? Let's give them a class. I'm going to roll a D100, and you let me know. That is a 71.
71 is a rogue.
Okay, so that's good. That's good.
And what does this tiefling do?
What does he
Occupation.
Do? A 69.
Ha! Good number. Laborer. They are a laborer.
Okay. Maybe this tiefling, his like cover for his rogue activities is that he is just a dumb laborer. Like he puts on the shows so that he can pretend that nobody should pay any attention to him because he's just this laborer that nobody cares about.
I like that it's a rogue because it's kind of like the only martial person in this squad, in this weird divine magic squad. It's just like, I'm just a person with a sword, you know. That's all I do, and I like that, kind of like the grounded one in the team, but still is maybe working with them. Maybe
I think that's good.
All right,
shall we give him a scheme and something else?
Let's do it. Let's see what the scheme is.
Scheme number 2.
Influence. Okay, that's kind of cool.
Sure. Rogue who's trying to build an influence in his underground stuff. I'm down with that. And then we will roll a d4, which is a 4.
Place a pawn in a position of power.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Now that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Maybe it's playing all this. It's kind of like actually the puppet master all along, and it's playing this cult like a fiddle, and then making them take over the world, when in the end it's just gonna snatch it from underneath them somehow.
Yeah, maybe it's harkening back to our previous Villain Squad episode. This could be the Assassin's Guild head. Like, this is the guy who is the ultimate charismatic character who can just play whatever role he needs to, but he is the head. But he will place a person into a position of power so that he can manipulate whatever he needs to, and he will continue to do that until he has basically full power from like a secret place. Or maybe he's like the boss in season 5 of JoJo.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, yeah.
Nobody knows what he looks like. I still haven't caught up, so don't spoil anything.
No, I'm not spoiling anything.
Excellent. But yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Okay.
So he's this rogue who's going to pretend to be a laborer, but is actually super intelligent and will be manipulating the higher up so that he can get what he needs.
Yeah.
Let's see how he does it. 13.
Neglect. Okay, so
the people who work for him are really, really needy, and they love him so much that they want his they just want to do right for him, but he's playing like hard to get, basically.
Yeah, kind of. Maybe he's negging the this cult, and it's like, are you gonna wear that jumper tonight? Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Like, what are you saying?
Oh, that shirt would look really good on someone else, you know. Oh boy, that's kind of fascinating. That's kind of weird, but also kind of cool. So he's going to be a manipulator, absolutely a manipulator.
Yes, that kind of makes that makes sense now. Kind of, yeah, manipulating his way up into power. So what we got as a laborer, but a neglect guy.
Yeah,
that thing. Those two things say that he's manipulator. Yeah,
yeah. Like his labor thing is like his cover, as I said. But putting people in position of power and then neglecting them is like he's going to feed them some information that's going to keep them wanting, but he's going to keep them on their toes, and they might be constantly a little bit paranoid that whatever is happening could go terribly wrong, and maybe he'll like see it and he'll soothe them with a little bit of information, and he'll give them connections, and he's going to be like a cloak and dagger kind of like, I have all the information, and maybe he doesn't, but all these people are going to like present him with information because they think that he is this great leader who's leading from the shadows, but like he's building that for himself. Like he's going to tell everyone that he already has everything, even though they are just giving it to him.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fascinating.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Maybe this guy would be in direct opposition to our previous ideas, because this guy might have set up shop in this city where this death cult is establishing itself, and it's going to, you know, fuck with his plans. So to have a slightly more, well, in my head, I think this is probably what I would try to do, at least probably fail at it, but you know, I'd give it a go of like having your opposition also be opposed to each other.
Yeah.
So maybe you would work with your enemies in a kind of enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just like putting your differences aside so that you can put this thing down, and he'll escape out the other end and just be fine or whatever.
Exactly. And that could easily be said for them as well, where maybe they have to work together to get rid of you.
Ooh.
And that's why they are working together.
Yeah. So maybe the players came across like a section of this gelatinous blob and they like cut it out, and then the death cult is like freaking out, like what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And maybe they'll get in contact with the guy who knows everything and present him with the information, and then he'll be like, oh, I knew all about that, and then he'll just spread that information to his people and come back with whatever they have, because if he is this master manipulator, he's going to have fingers in all the pies. Like whoever the party has interacted with, like even if it's someone that your players were like, I want to go to the butcher, you know, because all towns have butchers and all DMs prepare butcher shops. So
I had an encounter in a butcher shop in one of my games.
Oh, did you? Cool.
Yeah, but I never really thought that the players would talk to the butcher in the front of the shop and then ask for some meat, and then I'm like, I don't know. No, actually, it wasn't a butcher; it was a fishmonger.
Ah.
And I had the workers in the back of the shop. It was kind of like a front for a crime organization, but some of the people were using frozen fish as a weapon, and it was great. I loved it.
Fantastic.
But a fishmonger, butcher shop, kind of same area, I guess.
And so like whatever your players encounter within the city is basically what I'm saying. Like let them be a source to this tiefling rogue laborer manipulator, and like let the information that they share come back to them in a different form, and that can twist things around. Meanwhile, all of this contagion thing is going on.
Yeah.
Your people are going to be trying to save the city because somebody will have figured something out, and they'll be hiring basically to save the city. That could be kind of fascinating.
So we have a squad here of who might be working together for their own things, might not be working together. But basically, we have a cult on the rise of this disease worshipping cleric, and this cleric is trying to spread the word of this new disease that could be linked to this strange blob that's been growing underneath the city. Maybe it's part of that disease, maybe it's not, and that has to be stopped. While that's happening, a powerful warlock is trying to gain some strong power, and you know about this, and you're trying to stop them as well. On top of that, there's this master manipulator trying to either manipulate you and these enemies against each other, or trying to manipulate stuff for his own gain, while in the end he takes the ultimate power. It sounds like a pretty complex but kind of cool adventure going on right there.
Wrapping stuff like that around itself it's kind of a mental exercise almost. Like if you were given these 4 things just laid out in front of you, it would be a fantastic little exercise to do something like this. Like we didn't come up with these beforehand, as we said. We kind of had them here and rolled the dice and just happened to come out with all this mad shit. Yeah,
it's a good exercise, he said, because I think you agree with me as well, Tim. I think Daniel did this before, where he asked for people in like the player's backstory, and if each player gave like some rival or villain from their backstory, then you'll get different sounding people that you can't make them all villains, but you could. So doing something like this, where we get drastically different sounding people, we can easily put them together if we just kind of twist stuff around enough, and if you work with them enough. So that wasn't exactly the first thing that we thought about doing this, but now that I think about it, it's a good exercise. So
it is. It's super cool, and I think that with the DMG and with Xanthars, although Xanthars we only really used for the kind of jokey occupation and for the race and the class, you can just come up with whatever you like. It'll come up with a nice random set that you might not have before, like half-orc lizard folk, sentient gelatinous cube, and tiefling is not a set of 4 characters that I think I would have put together.
Exactly.
I come with all my preconceived notions of, you know, half-orcs will work with, I don't know, orcs, or dwarves won't work with elves, and Goliaths will work with, you know, whatever. Like they'll all work in a particular way, but if you have this mishmash, it's going to make it a more flavorful palette, basically. It's going to make each one individually more interesting, and it'll play on people's expectations of what they want to see in their games, which I think is going to be fascinating.
And if I played that game, I would be probably telling everybody about it for like years to come, and they'll be like, what the hell was that all about? I gotta play this D&D game. like it's stupid blob and a disease god. What's going on with this? Like Xanthar's Guide actually has a great "This Is Your Life" section where you could use for a villain if you wanted. It kind of like if you're not great at making backstories for your character, this is a very good jumping off point where it gives you like, okay, what kind of place were you born in?
Yeah.
Number of siblings, your life before that. And if you're like
it's extensive. It's very extensive.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Like if you're a fighter, it gives you like I became a fighter because I wanted to hone my combat skills, or I squired for a knight, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Like they put a lot of very deep thought into like why all the specifics. Like your parents, like they'll have a parent section, and it's like you know who your parents are, or you don't, and they've kind of measured it out, like metered it out to like more likely to be one way. Like they simplify some of it. You're much more likely to have been born in your home than anywhere else, like on an outer plane of your choice or an inner plane of your choice, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
You know? It starts on page 61 for anybody who has Xanthar's handy and wants to have a look at it.
Yeah. I did it for a player of mine who didn't really think of a backstory. He was just a paladin who owned a bar in the city. So I ended up doing it, and it turned out that like when we did This Is Your Life, we came up that he had a wife and kids. And it's like, oh well, we already did like three sessions of this campaign, and we never met the wife or kids before this, so we're just like, oh, they don't see each other anymore. So we just kind of went into that quite a lot, and he ended up making a character that seemed a little bit more three-dimensional after that one, where he has a wife and kids, but he became a paladin after that. And at the end of the campaign, I made his kid show up with like a grandkid as well, and just like, I'm gonna name it after you, and like it's like a nice happy ending kind of thing. And it's just kind of, I feel like if you're not great at making backstories, it's the best place to start off with. This is your life.
It is strange how difficult it is to come up with something like believable for somebody's backstory. I think like unless you're actually a writer who has studied that kind of stuff, I think it is like, it's a strange idea to me that it's hard to think complexly enough about something or a character that you would make that you would consider like whether they have a wife and kids, like where they were born, what they did as a soldier or a barbarian, or why they became that, or what tragedies befell them, or if they were a part of a war in the past. Like that kind of depth to a character. Like if your character is over 100 years old, they're going to have lived an entire life up to this point.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's kind of funny to me that we don't consider that sometimes when we're building our characters.
Yeah, but I firmly believe as well, which we might have mentioned on the show before, but I think that the most interesting thing that should happen to your character is the current campaign or your D&D campaigns. That should be the most exciting part.
I agree.
Where you can have a tragic backstory and stuff, but the campaign itself should be a lot more exciting, I think.
Yeah.
That should be the part that you talk about. That should be the defining moment of your characters. Because,
especially since like you will be starting at level 1, presumably. You know? Like that is like you start your adventure at this point. Like up until this point you were just you were a bum. You were a nobody. Now you're trying to make something out of yourself.
Because it's like, you know, if you have a movie or book, you got backstories for characters, but their story is what happens in the movie or book. So that story is what you want to be the defining years or the defining arc that the character goes through.
I agree.
I understand. But we kind of went off course a little bit here.
We did a little
talking
bit.
about characters.
But I think it's an important level of understanding to have of your own character or of your villains.
That's true.
So that we have excellent resources at our fingertips and we should use them.
Yeah, D&D is full of, when you make a player character, you want to make these iconic player characters. And our first reason why we made Villain Squad is because we wanted to make that same mentality to making your villains. You want to make very interesting, wacky villains if you're going to make very interesting, wacky player characters.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just being, I'm a lord in a castle and that's it. You know, you want to make these weird villains. We have a blob that's underneath the city. We have a half-orc disease cleric. It's just interesting stuff. It's like weird, but it's D&D, you know?
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I love this game. It's just the best. So shall we wrap it up there?
I think so, yeah. So let's use these guys if you so wish. The Disease Crew.
Yeah, Disease Crew. I'm gonna give that as their title. I'll post a tweet along with this episode just to have like everything that I I wrote down. I just wrote like shorthand notes, but I'll tweet it out so that we have it, or so that you guys can have it. At Creature Club Pod.
Yeah, listen up, guys. At Creature Club Pod is our Twitter. Give us a follow, please, and thank you. All right. Do you want to wrap it up there, Tim?
Sure. So thank you everybody for listening in again. Sorry again for missing last week, but schedules clashing and all that. But we are back this week, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, we will do our best to not miss another week.
We'll try. It might happen.
Yeah. You can find us on our website, creatureclubpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to our RSS feed, or you can just download the episodes right there on the webpage. We are available on Spotify, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on virtually any podcast service worth a damn,
Yeah.
It's throwing some shade on whoever we're not. We don't even know who we're not on.
Yeah, I think
we barely know who we are on. But yeah, you can contact us via the contact page on our website, or you can contact us at creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com, creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com, and you can send us your homebrew, you can send us some ideas, you can even just keep in contact with us. We'd love to hear from you. The easiest place to do that would be on Twitter. You can contact us via @CreatureClubPod. That's @CreatureClubPod. Or you can just search Creature Club Podcast, and we'll probably be the first ones to show up.
Yep.
We all have our individual Twitter accounts that we use to interact with our players. You guys are the players in our big D&D world.
Yeah. with our followers, our listeners. You can follow us. I'm at Mikey DC. Tim is at Timothus.
At Timothus Music.
At Timothus Music, okay.
At Timothus is not me. That's some other dude who I had a chat with, and he's actually fine. Don't bother him. He's cool.
That's not
maybe I'll eventually buy the Twitter handle from him once we're big and famous.
And at Big Bread Dog is Daniel.
Yes. And we'll interact with whoever interacts with our posts on there, or you can just at us, and we'll see it. So yeah, is that just about everything?
That's just about everything. Yeah, I think so.
I think next episode that we have, all three of us will read another review, because there is one more that I'm still excited to read out.
Yes, I saw that one. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Next episode will be another thing.
Yep.
Either another Creature Club or another interstitial podcast. We don't know yet. Yeah. We'll see next time. But thanks so much for listening, guys. I have been Mikey.
I've been Tim.
Stay cool.